Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I am your host, Eric Smith, and today I am talking about C.V. Hunt's Horrorama. This is from Grindhouse Press. It looks like a video cassette in a video cassette case. You can see that there. And it is 3 novelettes by A.S. Coomer, Lucas Mangum, and Matt Harvey. And I call it C.V. Hunt's Horrorama because that's what it says on the cover, even though, on the inside it just says Horrorama. On the copyright page it just says Horrorama. But to me it's C.V. Hunt's Horrorama. C.V. Hunt is an author and a publisher who, according to the introduction here, took ownership of Grindhouse Press. That's what it says. When I decided to take ownership of Grindhouse Press, etc., in the introduction. And the Grindhouse Press, don't quote me on any of this, but it is, I believe, it is still located in Ohio. I think it's down in Dayton. I believe it used to be run by Anderson Prunty. Not 100% sure and didn't bother to look any of this up, but I believe that's the case. So apparently C.V. Hunt owns it now, and she, again, according to the introduction, is a big fan of B movies, grindhouse movies, all sorts of stuff like that, and so wanted to put out this book, which she says is similar to having a little 3-movie B-movie marathon, 3-movie B-movie marathon. So that's why you've got these 3 stories in here. And we start off with Store All Self-Storage by A.S. Coomer. And what you have is Richard Dennison. He's a writer. He's been suffering from writer's block. And he gets a part-time job at Store All Self-Storage as the nighttime sort of watchman, security, just the nighttime guy. He's there. He's sitting in the office, and the only instructions he's been given are, if anything happens, call the police. So he starts this job. His bosses are these 2 weird dudes, and they're not even very friendly dudes. They just give him the job, and they're just like, just do your job. Call the police if there's any trouble. And some weird stuff starts happening. And he starts kind of watching some of the clientele who come in the middle of the night and go to their storage units, and observes the bizarre things that are going on within Store All Self-Storage. This story was a lot of fun. It definitely had a B-movie, almost low-budget feel. Well, I guess it would depend. There are some crazy scenes. So for a movie, I guess it would depend on how the special effects look, on whether or not it was low budget or not. But definitely B-movie. It's a lot of fun. It's the lightest, I would say, of the 3 stories here, even though there is some gruesome stuff. But it's very bizarre, and it's well written. It's a lot of fun. It's highly entertaining. But it's definitely the lightest of the 3. So I suppose if you were doing a 3-movie marathon, I don't know, do you want to start with the lightest one and work your way to the darker stuff, or do you want to end on something light? I guess it depends on your mood. But anyway, that's the first story. Store All Self-Storage, A.S. Coomer. It's pretty good. It's very entertaining. Next, we have Primitive by Lucas Mangum. I've read one other book by Lucas Mangum, and I really enjoyed it. That was Gods of the Dark Web. And I believe I read that when I wasn't doing reviews, or you probably would have seen a review of it. I definitely want to read more of his stuff. I know he has at least one more book put out by Grindhouse, and I think he's kind of spread himself around. He's got books from all sorts of different publishers. But we're here to talk about Primitive, and right off the bat, this would be the found footage movie of your movie three movie marathon because there's it's an editor's note. Um, it's always fun to watch somebody flip through a book. Yes, an editor's note that would be essentially the title card you see at the beginning of a movie that says what you're reading is something that was found. And it sort of gives the circumstances under which they were found. But you're reading, you call it a found journal as opposed to found footage. I just like doing singular air quotes. So this would be the found footage movie in our movie trilogy or movie marathon. And four lifelong friends are going on a trip. The guy that's that's writing everything down, is divorced. He's upset about that, and his wife just got custody of their son, so he's upset about that. His best friend is a guy who's happily married. One of the friends is gay and single, and one of the friends also divorced. I don't remember too much about that guy. There's sort of the guy that's just there. I mean, he does talk about him. There's great characterization in here. I'm just drawing a blank on his status. But anyway, these four friends, they go out, they're camping, just, trying to get away from it all, trying to reconnect, just trying to have a fun weekend. And some weird stuff happens. There's some wolves around. They decide they're going to maybe hunt the wolves, even though they're not supposed to. And then this woman shows up, and she looks like she's starving. Her clothes are dirty and torn, and she's disheveled. And she says she's trying to find her son for very specific reasons. She tells a story that's unbelievable until something happens that makes it completely believable. And craziness and violence and all sorts of stuff goes on from there. I've actually told you quite a bit of the story already, but it's because the first half maybe is character development, and then we get into the crazy stuff. But it's all well written. It's all interesting. It's a much darker story than the first one. I'm not going to tell you, obviously, what goes on with this woman and after she arrives in their camp. But it's wild and crazy and dark and violent and well written. I absolutely, I already wanted to read more Lucas Mangum, and this just sort of solidifies that feeling that I should be reading more of his work. I like what he's written, and Primitive is some good stuff. I see I'm crooked. I'm kind of leaning. I don't know how that affects you visually. Let me know if you're bothered by my sort of sideways. But you do get to see Wolverine back, the zombie Wolverine, although I'm blocking all these zombie guys. Anyway, the third story in C.V. Hunt's Horrorama is The Vessel by Matt Harvey. Now, you may have noticed every time I hold this up that there's a bookmark in here. It's actually just a business card from the comic book shop I go to. But I had to mark a page because in the description here, they don't give you one of the main characters' names, and I want to have access to it, so I marked the page where they have his name. But anyway, in this story, The Vessel, there's a cult called the Heralds of Celestial Ascendancy, and they're essentially trying to find a vessel for their god. And then we have Elise Abington, who's been having strange dreams. There are strange occurrences going on in her life. She doesn't know why. She doesn't know what's going on. She has a husband. She has a child. She hasn't told them about what's going on. And then we have the character whose name I had to mark, Edgar Hicks, who is I'm going to call him a cult buster and deprogrammer. And he's been hired by somebody whose brother died because of the cult, the Heralds of Celestial Ascendancy. So he's hired Edgar Hicks to just take down the cult. These three things, the cult, Elise, let me look, just Elise, not Elisa, Elise Abington and Edgar Hicks are going to come together in this story of crazy, supernatural, wild cult stuff. And I love cult stories. Edgar Hicks is a great character. The Heralds of Celestial Ascendancy are a wild cult. Elise Abington is, I had to check. She's a good character. And, I mean, this is a fun story. Maybe fun's not the right word. Fun for me, because I like all this stuff. And like I said, I like cult stories. It is dark. I'm not sure. I think Primitive is probably the darkest story simply because of the style in which it is written. The Vessel is darker than the first story. My opinion, not quite as dark as the second story, but it's still pretty dark. There's some crazy stuff that goes on. I'm not sure what I can say. I think the title kind of tells you that maybe Elise Abington is going to be the Vessel. But is the cult going to be able to get her? I have to look again. Edgar Hicks. I was going to say Kit for some reason. Edgar Hicks, is he going to be able to save her? Is he going to be able to take down the cult? Well, you're going to have to read the story to find out. Can you hear my Alexa? For some reason, I don't know what triggered it, but it was just talking to me. It's a Kindle. It's not an actual like Alexa thing. Anyway, rambling. So The Vessel by Matt Harvey, very good. I really enjoyed this. I have not read anything by Matt Harvey before. I'm not familiar with him, but I was very excited in reading the about the author stuff in the back. It says that he is a Bay Area native who currently resides in San Luis Obispo. That's how I say it. I don't know if that's proper. Could be San Luis Obispo. I've always said San Luis Obispo because when I spent 3 years in California in the Air Force, I loved going to San Luis Obispo, hitting up the used bookstores, and it was the home. I am 99.999% sure this is where we went to my favorite pizza place that I have ever been to, Woodstock's Pizza. All right, that has nothing to do with this book review. That's possibly one of the biggest tangents I've gone on in one of these. But anyway, I found that I just love hearing about places I've been. So Matt Harvey lives there. I don't know if Woodstock's Pizza is still around. Maybe he can tell me if it is and if it's any good. But I'm going to have to look for more of his stuff because this was a really a good story. So I'll see what else Matt Harvey has done. So there you have it. 3 stories. All Self-Storage by A.S. Coomer. Primitive by Lucas Mangum. The Vessel by Matt Harvey. All collected in C.V. Hunt's Horrorama. A nice triple feature of B-movie stories. All well written. All entertaining. All different. I gave this, I believe, a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. And I recommend it. Obviously. I mean, why would I not recommend anything that's a 3 out of 5 or above? And, as always, I like to support small press publishers, especially one that's relatively local, Ohio. I do have something by C.V. Hunt that I have not read yet, so I'm going to have to get to that pretty soon. Start reading some of her stuff because she's an author as well. I believe I mentioned that. All right, there you have it. C.V. Hunt's Horrorama. What do I do next? If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put them in the comments below. We can talk spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. If you know the proper pronunciation of San Luis Obispo or San Luis Obispo, let me know. Let me know if Woodstock's Pizza is still there. Love that place. Please like, share, and subscribe. And that's it. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith. And until next time, read more books.